episode of Be the Boss of Your Money. This is a difficult one. Today is a little different than usual because of the circumstances that are taking place right now. I'm a little tired, I have to tell you the truth. I'm definitely a little on the tired side. I've been following the news very closely with what's happening in our country. And the whole world's been following it. It's so disturbing and it's just so horrific. This is this has really become a very dark day in our nation's history, and it's so full in the open, which is good that it's in the open. Terrible for the reason, but yeah, I'm a little tired, a little exhausted, but this live stream, this is about personal finance, investing, business. But you'd have to be a freaking idiot to try to talk about those things without addressing what's taking place right now. I don't know how other people are pulling it off, just kind of skating over the George Floyd death, the murder that we have all seen by now, and everything that's followed since. I can't talk to you about the economy and the stock market in the day and give you the update and tell you how markets have done in the past based on strife, hurtful black marks in our nation's history, without talking about this one. The last year, there was a comparison going around written by a journalist, Jeff Cox, who I know personally, and I consider him a friend, and he's an extraordinarily brilliant journalist, by the way, with an incredible sense of market history. Okay, well, he works at CNBC. He's one of their top writers and he's top editors there, so he knows this stuff. And he wrote an article comparing this current time to 1968. So we'll get into that, but it's just really, it's just so unbelievably hurtful to see what happened, and the reactions are going all over the place. It's just a very hurtful time. We're all very hurt by it, and I think we're all very hurt by it. You should be very hurt by it, and if you're not, maybe you need to check your pulse or see if you could still fog a mirror. My name is Mitch Goldberg. We're going to talk about this in terms of the market. First, the update. That's what we do. And then we're going to get into all of this horrendous news. So I'm going to run the intro, and then we've got a couple of serious things to talk about. Stay tuned. And we're live. Thank you very much for joining me. My name is Mitch Goldberg. If you're watching this during the live stream, I would welcome your comments and I would welcome your questions in the comments, I should say. Again, like I said, I'm a little thrown off. I'm exhausted. There's been an awful lot of news today. Shocking, and it's like, and all the news since the murder has been like these horrible aftershocks, just one after the other. If you're watching this in the replay, I'd like to welcome you as well. If you have any questions for me when you're watching this, after you watch it, certainly ask away in the comments. I will be checking for your questions, and I don't want to miss anything, and I want to put things in perspective. So the question is, how can the stock market go up on such horrendous news when you saw the protests over the weekend all over the country, the destruction, the protests, the riots, and the horrible news, and what we witnessed was a murder on TV. It wasn't, wasn't a movie. It wasn't a TV show. I mean, it was real life, and it's just shocking and more than hard to take and accept. So as we speak, Governor Cuomo just announced a curfew tonight in Manhattan. I don't know if it's how long it's going to continue for, but from 11 p.m. tonight, local time, to 5 a.m., there's going to be a curfew. I actually searched this. I only had a few minutes between the time that this was announced and for me to prepare to go live. So I did a quick Google search. When was the last time New York City was under a curfew? I couldn't find it. A bunch of articles came up, and I glanced them really quickly, but I didn't see it. So if you know when the last time New York City was under a curfew, let me know in the comments. I'm just curious. I'd like to know. I'm going to move one of my lights back. It's kind of in my face. Okay, that's better. There we go. So now it's shining on my head. Okay, so wow, what a tough time. So let's do a quick review. I always like to do a review of the market and then add some perspective in terms of. Let me just fix this light. Okay. All right. That should be better. Sorry about that, folks. But going live and putting everything together, that's the beauty of live. You never know how it's going to go, but hopefully it'll go well. So we're going to do a share screen. Anyone who follows me, who follows the show, knows I always do a quick share screen, give you an update on the market. More than an update, you can get an update anywhere, but I want to give you perspective. I've been doing what I do as a financial advisor for 30 years. So let's get into the share screen real quick. If I sound a little subdued, it's because I feel a little subdued, because I am, like I said, exhausted and upset. And we have friends who are hurting. And anyway, the Dow is up 91, S&P up 11, NASDAQ up 0.66%, Russell 2000, that's a small cap index, was up 0.81. The VIX should have been down on an update. The VIX usually does go opposite of the market. Usually. Today it went with the market. The VIX here, the VIX, that's the fear gauge. You would expect that to be down, not up, when the major averages are up. So it just tells you that there's a lot of worry out there, and traders are not giving up their downside hedges or downside protection if the market takes a sudden turn for the worse. Let's take a look at some of the big market movers. Boeing continuing its recovery, up almost 4%. Travelers had a decent day. ExxonMobil had a decent day. Goldman, JP Morgan, you see Amex Financials had a decent day. Overall, you know what? Not a bad day. But what I like to see is when you see JP Morgan, ExxonMobil, you see Chevron was up, Boeing. So when you see financials, energy, and industrials leading the way, that is a bullish sign for the economy. That says investors are feeling confident. Top decliners, drug stocks. Pfizer had a drug that did not do well today, a failed clinical trial. Verizon, it's one of the rush to money into Verizon for their dividend and stability. That's considered one of the COVID stocks, I guess. Down, one of the top losers in the Dow today. 3M down a little bit. Walmart down a little bit. So just to give you an idea of what kind of day it was. And then the most important thing that I follow, and if you want to follow something, make your own dashboard, this is the most important thing I follow. The 11 spiders exchange traded funds, ETFs, that represent the 11 main segments of the stock market, the general industry classification standards, the main industries of the market. So real estate had a decent day, but energy, decent day. Financials, decent day. Financials, utilities going up the same time. I haven't seen that in a while. Industrials up, but overall, tech was off a tiny bit. Healthcare was off 1%, but that was mostly due to Pfizer. Okay. So that's just to give you an idea of what the day was like. So overall, a flattish to slightly good day. Hey, I'm happy with a flat day. I really, I've said this before. I don't want an up 500 point or up 1,000 point day. Yeah, they're nice to have, but a lot of times you give those back. I would rather see a lot of grinding higher, a lot of base hits and doubles maybe a couple of walks, as opposed to really big days, because they're often followed by really big down days or down weeks. So I think this is overall a pretty positive day. So let's take a look at something else. Share screen. Okay. I meant to go over this. New York City under curfew order Monday night to curb George Floyd protests, Governor Cuomo says. New York Times has a lot on it. All right, get to the headline. A lot of long articles. So I was just reading this before I went live. New York City will have a curfew. All right. So let's get into this. By the way, I see the comments out there. Frank, I see you out there, and I'll be taking a look at these. So, the year we're going to compare today to this year is to 1968. We try to find days in the past with some similarities to where we are now, in order to sort of give us a roadmap of where we're going to go next or what we could do next. We take a historical perspective and see what needs to be done, what could be done, and what we think would happen next. Because we're trying to find out really quick what happens next. I mean, the 1968 civil rights movement, the 1960s civil rights movement, we're not a one weekend event. Not to belittle what's happening now. Okay, we've had a number of events. That father and son walking, and they see a man of color. You heard what happened there. Just crazy stuff, and our fellow Americans are hurting, and this stuff still goes on. And this is what you see on camera. Imagine all the things that you don't see because there aren't cameras everywhere, cell phones everywhere. Okay, smartphones. We've also been dealing with a quarantine that's been going on for the last 60, 75 days around the country. And, these are tough things. So why was the market able to go up today? It's for the same reasons that the market's been going up about 35% from its March 23rd low, is enthusiasm about states reopening their economy, taking a worst case scenario off the table in terms of deaths due to COVID-19 and failing economy. It also helps that the government put a moratorium on evictions and foreclosures. There's something called the foreclosure and eviction cliff coming up, that when these are past us, when the moratoriums on these are over, that we're going to see a big jump in these, and people are going to have to either move or be foreclosed on and have nowhere to go. So, and that hurts the banks. We'll see what happens. But right now it's enthusiasm over the state economies reopening, a lot of stimulus, Fed policy. Everything has been geared to keep the economy going, to buy us some time so we can get through the coronavirus time, and hopefully we don't have a rebound or a resurgence in the fall. Okay, so there are curfews all over the country in major cities. Being that I am local to New York City, that's my main city. I live on Long Island. That really hits you. Did you see the destruction from the riot? So I want to separate this, and I want to say to you, wrong answer. And if what I'm about to say to you offends you, or if this is the you agree with this, I hope you'll unfollow me or detach from me. And if we're connected on social media, just go away, please. But when it's such a horrible thing, this man was murdered, and then people follow that up by saying, well, people shouldn't be rioting and breaking into stores and stealing. No, that's the wrong answer. One has nothing to do with the other. In my mind, there's no justification. Well, people shouldn't have been doing it. Is that your answer to that? Is that like your statement? Oh, well, it's okay because people were doing bad things. No, that doesn't fly by me. That's not right. What happened was horrible. The rioting, the destruction, Terrible. And everyone says it's terrible. I mean, how could you not? But don't connect one to the other. Well, because people were writing, well, it wasn't okay for these people to do this or that. No, no, no. One has nothing to do with the other. If you're saying that, well, people shouldn't have been looting or rioting when someone was handcuffed on the ground on his stomach with someone with a police officer putting, stepping on someone's neck, an unarmed person, that this person was subdued already, and there's no reason for what happened. I saw the video, saw the warning that the cop got. It was absolutely horrendous. And if you say to me, I'm just going to say this one more time, that well, people shouldn't have been, rioting, looting, etc. No, that has nothing to do with this. Yeah, people shouldn't be doing that. But does that somehow justify that this is okay to you? If please, God forbid you think that. Just get lost, go away. Going on, okay? So that's why things are opening. 1968 was the assassination of Martin Luther King. And, I want you to know, my kids are going to see this. I'm going to make sure my kids see this live presentation. And, what he said is people will remember more than what people remember, more so than what enemies have said, will be the silence of our friends. Silence is not an option. And I am very fortunate that I have a position of standing, that I have a platform to speak from. And I'm using this to call it, because my silence for me is not an option. And for my children, it's not an option. This is not a political thing. I have friends on both sides of the aisle who feel the same way as me. Okay. But seriously, this what happened is horrible. And we can't have statements like, when the looting starts, the shooting starts. Do you know the history of what that is? Look it up. It's pretty ugly. Okay. So why would the market go up today in such horrible news? Because of the enthusiasm of the economy opening up, because of the enthusiasm about possible vaccinations coming out. We've got a few now that are in the hopper that are looking pretty good, because of an antiviral drug called remdesivir from a company called Gilead. So the science is starting to work. The states are starting to reopen. That was today a function of algorithms, because when a lot of things are computerized, one of the things that investors try to do is to take emotion out of the investing process. And that's very important. If you make your investing decisions based on emotion, you'll be changing your investments, your allocation, your stocks, your cash, your bonds. You'll be changing those every time your mood changes. And investing based on your mood is the worst thing that you can do, because your mood is based basically on greed and fear. It's based on love, hate, desire, repelling. That's what it's based on. We don't make investment decisions based on that. What we make investment decisions based on, to me, are that companies are headed by management, and we're betting on management. We're betting on people who are motivated to build their companies, build their revenues, build their earnings, and grow the company, which the stock should follow. That's what investing is long term. It's not based on mood, right? So algorithms, program trading, limit orders, these help take mood, take emotion out of the stock market. So is today an algorithm day? Was it feeling that we'll just get back to normal? I hope you don't go back to normal. First of all, the COVID changes everything. I think it changes long term how we work, what we think of commuting, what we think of office space, what we think of social distancing, what we think of networking events. And now with George Floyd, hopefully it changes our thoughts. You know, I'm so many things to think about. I'm thinking about a time when someone would say, "Well, I was just joking. I told a snide joke, a dirty joke, a joke." I'm not talking about a comedian up on stage who's supposed to, maybe make fun of people. I'm talking about, people who tell jokes like, "Oh, I was just joking. Ah, what's the big deal? You're so sensitive. Ah, don't take it the wrong way." Old school. That doesn't fly anymore. And the old expression, old school, no, we don't go by old school anymore. That's it's too late, too old for old school. Okay, so I hope this helps you out with your understanding of why the market could go up. Now, when 1968 from January to March, the S&P dropped about 7.6%. Then about a 25% rally followed. And then 1968, the stock market ended up about 7% or so. Okay. I was born in 1967, so I don't remember any of this. And I'm sure when I was very young, my parents shielded me from this. And by the time I grew up in the 70s and 80s and the 90s, you know, this stuff was ancient history. We were supposed to be enlightened. We were supposed to be better, the new and improved version of America, the new and improved, generation. So again, forgive me. I'm a little off today. I'm exhausted. I'm very upset, and I hope. Anyway, I hope this presentation gives you an idea of why the stock market could go up in light of all the news, burning cars, broken windows. Saint John's, right? That's the name of the cathedral, and part of it was set on fire in Washington D.C. across from the White House. We don't want the looting. We don't want the raw. Of course, listen, folks. Don't say, "Oh, Mitch," no. We want the protests. We want things to change. What went on could never happen again. I hope this message finds you and your family safe and well and enlightened. Let me see who's out there. Okay. Frank, gutsy show. Thank you, Frank. It is a gutsy show, and I know you're with me, and thank you for being so supportive. And here's the answer: Mayor LaGuardia imposed a curfew to halt the Harlem riots in August of 1943. Was that the last time there was a curfew in the city of New York? I was thinking more like maybe it was when they had the Occupy Wall Street in 2011 or the 9/11, the terrorist attacks. Boy, 1943, that goes back away. And again, Harlem riots. You know what that was about, right? And Frank, I appreciated your posts, by the way, the other day, anti racial and all those good things. I saw that. I appreciate that very much. So with that, I'm going to end this presentation, and I'll see you tomorrow. Okay. Last I could find for imposed curfew. Okay. I couldn't find it either. So we'll have to look into that. Thank you, Frank. So I hope tomorrow the world is a better place. Hey, maybe we could start a new slogan: just one day at a time. We could make it a little bit better one day at a time. Thank you very much.